You're listening to The Featured Voice, a podcast summer series on the Audio Flow with Jacques.
Hey everyone, welcome to The Featured Voice. I'm your host, Jacques, and I'm so happy to be here again with you guys this week to bring you another voice that you may not be familiar with. I wasn't familiar with his voice until I called him, and yeah, it was a mighty fine voice, people, and lucky for you, you'll get to hear him and I chat for probably about 45 minutes. I'm pretty sure you will tune me out throughout the entire episode. I mean, I tune me out just so that I can listen to him talk. His voice it's like, that wasn't a moan. That wasn't a moan at all. That was what I'm now calling pleasure sigh. Yeah, we're going with that. It was a pleasure sigh. His voice makes me pleasure sigh. Right now he is narrating mostly in science fiction and fantasy, but he is looking to broaden his horizon and narrate in some YA books as well. And so if you are a YA author and you're looking or listening for a new fresh voice for your books, then you might want to give this guy a try. Please help me welcome this week's featured voice, Ray Greenley. Hi, Ray. Welcome to The Featured Voice. How are you?
Thank you, Jacques. I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing okay, except for, as you can hear, I sound like I swallowed somebody's frog or I just rolled out of the bed. But other than that, we're just going to tell everybody that I'm practicing my narrating skills for the good, sexy voice. So, yeah, I'm doing
great. There you go. I'll go with that.
Yeah, as long as you're on board with it. So we are in week 8 of The Featured Voice, and so excited to have you on board. You are a fairly new narrator to me. I don't think I've had a chance to listen to any of your work yet, but that's the great part about The Featured Voice, is that not only do I get to meet new people in the industry, but also the listeners, and that way we can go and spend money and add more books to our already growing audiobook library. So how about that?
It sounds great. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate you having me on, Jacques. Yeah, I've only been recording for about 2.5 years now, but while some other people have been in it about that amount of time and have a lot more credits to their name, I'm working part-time on it. So it does take me a bit longer to complete a project than somebody who's really able to put in that full-time work. My full-time job is I am a stay-at-home dad to my 6 kids. So it doesn't leave me with a lot of spare time in the studio.
Gosh, that wouldn't leave you enough spare time for anything, would it?
Well, I am in a pretty fortunate situation where my wife, who works as an accountant, also works from home.
Okay.
And she's pretty amazing because what she'll do is a couple days a week, she'll go leave her office and go bring her computer downstairs and work while she keeps an eye on the other kids, so that I can close myself up in my studio and get some recording done. So that's what really allows me to actually do any of this, so that I have at least a couple days a week, which is not an incredibly fast pace for recording, but I get my work done, and I've gotten some good books out for it.
Well, that's good. We're gonna do a hand clap to all of the wives who are supportive of their husbands, spouses, boyfriends, who work in this industry, because you're like the probably like the second person that I've spoken with who is in a situation similar to that. So we thank you, Ray's wife, for for being a support and allowing him to get that time to close himself off in the studio.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely couldn't do any of it without her being behind me 100%. So it's I'm really lucky and fortunate to have someone like her along on this ride with me.
Well, that's good. So speaking of rides, so let's talk a little bit about your journey into this industry as a voiceover performer. You said you've been doing this a little over 2 years or 2.5 years. So walk us through those steps of how you actually stumbled into it.
Okay, well, The seed actually first got planted way back when I was in college, finishing up a computer science degree. And for some reason, somehow, I was just a couple credits short when I was coming into graduation. So for the first summer session, I took an intro to acting course to fill in some credits. I'd always been interested in acting, but never really knew how to do anything with it. And so I thought this would be a fun way to sort of play around. And the professor who was teaching the class just kind of offhand mentioned to me a couple times, you could make money with your voice, which I'd never really thought about or considered before. And it wasn't really,
though.
Yeah. And he didn't say it to anyone else in the class. So it didn't feel like the sort of thing that he just sort of throws around. Mm-hmm. So it, wasn't what I was about to finish school with. A computer science degree wasn't really what I was there for. But it still planted the idea in my head. And I always thought it would be fun to get into acting at some point. And just never really knew how or what to do. So years went by, I got married and started moving on with my life, got a job in IT, and eventually we moved to the area I'm in now, near Philadelphia in Pennsylvania, and we got a flyer in the mail from a local volunteer theater, and it listed the audition dates along with the shows. And before, I never had any idea that there's these theaters out there. I mean, I knew about community theaters, but like how someone actually got there, I thought, well, maybe they have just their roster of actors that they reuse over and over again. I don't know anything about it. But audition dates sort of suggested to me, hey, maybe they actually want people to come out and audition, which, of course, is how it works. I mean, you got these theaters in your area, just look them up on their website, and they're going to have audition dates. And most of the time, anyone can go in. And so I got in touch with the theater about a show that was coming up, if you're familiar with it, but The Foreigner. And I went to the audition and got a role. Never been on stage before, but I somehow managed to get cast. Had a lot to learn. Everyone in the cast and the director were great. Really enjoyed it, and I've been doing a show or two a year at that theater ever since, and that was scarily 9-ish years ago. I can't believe it's been that long. It's longer than it. Anyway, I feel like I'm getting old. But so that got me, into acting, and I was, being on stage and learning from people who have been there a lot longer than I have, sort of as I went. And then eventually, the idea of doing voiceovers, and I started listening to audiobooks and thought, oh man, that would be neat to be able to do. But again, I don't really know how to get into it. And then one of the other friends, my friends at the theater, started posting on Facebook about recording audiobooks. And I asked him, and he told me about the website ACX, which I'm sure you've heard about in your other conversations. And this is a way to get audiobook work. I wasn't ready to just sort of go in there and get started blind. But then someone else told me about a local company here in Philadelphia that does voiceover training. And, I wasn't like married to the idea of being an audiobook narrator at that point. It's something that I wanted to do. I mean, my wife and I have been reading books aloud with each other ever since we got married or before. We've read like the whole Harry Potter series out loud together. The whole, like, The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, like The Count of Monte Cristo, the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy books, a lot of stuff that we've been doing. And so I've been reading out loud in that capacity, and it's something I enjoy doing. So there's a company in Philadelphia that does voiceover training, and I was able to look them up and saw that the rates were not crazy expensive. And I talked to my wife about it. I'd been sort of hoping to wait until our kids at that point were sort of a little bit older, so I wouldn't have to be going when there's a baby around. Yeah. But the problem is when you keep having kids, that gets pushed off further and further, right?
Ray.
But no complaints or anything. But I talked to her about it, and she gave me the okay. All right, yeah, go take this course. It was like 8 weeks, once a week, going in the evening to this class, and it was fantastic. I loved it. And it covered all of voiceover, commercial and narration and all that stuff. And then after I got done with that one, I took their advanced class, and then I recorded some demos with them so that I could, potentially get started with a voiceover career. And as important as the skills that I learned about, breaking down a script or, how to, read in a script in the booth and stuff, was the connections I made, because the people running the class and everything were professionals in the Philadelphia area. Like the guy who runs it, his name is Rob Holt, has been just invaluable to me along the way on advice, as far everything from my studio to rates and all that stuff. And so with that help, I was able to sort of set my sights forward, and I knew I wanted to do audiobooks. The great thing about ACX is there's no fee. I mean, I was so cost averse when I was starting, because, we have a big family, right, and this is a side thing, and I can't, the risk that I'd be putting on my family by like making big investments, borrowing a bunch of money to like buy a bunch of equipment or build a studio or something, or pay for, say, a subscription to one of the pay-to-play sites like Voices123 or Voices.com, is just not something that I was ready to do for, right, at that point, was still a very theoretical prospect, right? But ACX is free for people to sign up on, and I was able to get on there. I threw out some additions to some books that looked interesting, and not too far into that, I got my first offer, a book called Nebulous Jet Black Book 1 by T.S. Littlefield. And from there, it was all about actually doing the job. The first one did take me a while, but I got it figured out. And, there's some things that if I did it again now, knowing now what I know then, of course, I'd do differently. Yeah. But I'm still pretty proud of the work that I did. And I've been able to pretty much keep steadily working ever since.
Well, I like that you had a very interesting plan as it was outlined. You were in school for something totally different. You just needed to fill in some space, and you happened upon the theater class, and things led you to this direction. And so I like that you said in your first book, there are some things there that you would have done a little bit differently. Now, when was the last time you actually went back and listened to that first book or some of your earlier works, or do you ever have an opportunity to go back there and listen and really say, this is how much I've changed over a period of time since then?
Well, opportunity, yes. Desire, not so much. I'll be honest. I have a hard time listening to any of my own stuff, just because even my later stuff, I listen as little as possible, because all I can hear are the flaws. Other people, give me great positive feedback. My wife, my coach, or the reviews I get are all pretty positive. But I listen back to it, and I can't do it. And I've fortunately, I've talked to enough other creative people to know that that's not a unique condition. But I mean, I've just learned so much since then, including like taking coaching to really be able to improve, which is probably one of the most important things that I did since I got started, was to start working with a coach, so I could really focus my effort on improving myself rather than stumbling around and just hoping I'm doing it right. Right. I mean, I think almost any creative person could probably benefit from working with a good, skilled coach. Just because I don't know, I'm not going to generalize necessarily, but I know for me, like, it's really hard for me to be objective about my stuff. I'm so self-critical that, I can't tell whether it's actually good or not. I mean, I can tell usually when it's really bad and I need to redo something, but as far as like how do I improve this? How do I make it better? Where do I need to do to really step forward? Like, I can't do that for myself. And so having a coach is like, he does that for me. He tells me what I need to work on, tells me what I'm doing right, tells me what I'm doing wrong. And it's just invaluable as a creative, I think.
Yeah. Well, trust me, you're not the only one. And I'm just a podcaster, and I never go back and listen to any of my episodes.
Right.
And it's probably I just don't like my voice. So yeah, I'd probably never go back and listen. And even when I send things to my editor and she's like, you can go back and listen, I'm like, no, I trust you. Everything's good.
Yeah.
Just upload it and keep it moving.
Yeah, that's right. Now that's what I'm working with a proofer for my work right now. And I just love the fact that I don't have to try to go back and, besides all the like actual real benefits of working with a proofer, like They can tell you that word you've been pronouncing wrong your entire life is pronounced wrong, which you never would have caught yourself. I mean, besides all those practical benefits, there's the whole benefit. Now I don't have to go back and like listen to my entire book because she did it for me, and I trust her to check and catch any of the mistakes or off sounds that are in there. And if she let it go, if she approved it, then it's probably great for publication. And now I don't have to listen to myself for hours at a time while I'm working on a book.
Exactly. And we should thank them every day. We should say we're so happy that we have proofers and editors who don't mind going back and listening to us sometimes not sound all that great. And we are our worst critics, I think.
Absolutely.
And so I totally feel that 100%. And so I just sometimes try not to even think about trying to evaluate myself. I just, don't evaluate. Let us do that for you, Ray. That is our job to evaluate and give you reviews, good reviews. And so we're excited about that. So, okay, you started this journey a little bit ago. Tell me a little bit about the genres that you are narrating currently, and also if there's a genre or an author that you like to work with that you haven't done so yet. What genre and or author or authors is it?
Okay. Well, so far, and it's just sort of happened this way. It wasn't totally planned or anything, but most of my books have been science fiction, which works for me. I've always been a fan of science fiction, and it just seems to be that's the way the books that I've been getting. Everything from the first one I did, that Nebulous I mentioned, is young adult sci-fi, sort of in modern setting with aliens and stuff like that, to like a really sort of crazy sci-fi / fantasy for the Atomic Sea was the second one I did. Then Seabound series that I did last year is a sort of a near future post-apocalyptic type thing where there's not a whole lot of like supernatural alien stuff going on, but it still is, sort of science fiction in that it's, the future. And then one of the latest ones I've also been working on was the Great Martian War series, which is like a follow-up to War of the Worlds. So you've got the Martians coming in, and it's like alternate reality, historical, military science fiction, which are all things that I love. So I just adore those books. Up into the
wrapped up in one book, one little sandwich. I must be hungry. Did you see? I didn't mean to say sandwich. I meant to say gift or something.
Yeah, no problem. And then the last one that I just wrapped up finally earlier this week, the biggest project I've ever done is called Legacy of Shadow, and it's like a science fiction epic sort of thing about these two guys that get kidnapped by aliens and end up like involved in this floating city in space. And it's like politics and space battles and all sorts of weird aliens, and I just love it all. I wouldn't mind like doing some more. I have done a couple nonfictions too. Even one of those is dealing with like fantasy worlds in making fantasy worlds for like role playing games or fiction authors. So I enjoy that stuff too. And I wouldn't mind doing more fantasy if the opportunity would kind of come up. It just hasn't quite really yet. Although a genre that I think I would like to move into, because I think my voice is probably pretty good for it. At least that's what it's been suggested to me, is I wouldn't mind getting into more like young adult, even romance type stuff.
Okay.
But I need to do my own homework on that. I have never been like a huge romance fan. And so like, you can't just dive into a genre that you don't have any experience with. I need to go and read or listen to like a few books and try to get a feel for how it all works. And then maybe I can start exploring off in that direction, just as to open up my repertoire a little more and give myself some more opportunities. That's the direction I'd like to go. And I'm not so familiar with it that I know like a lot of the authors involved there. I mean, I know there's a lot of great work being done. So it'd be fun to get involved.
And see, that's what I'm here for. I can send you some suggestions of books
to
read and get you in contact with some authors who are thinking about putting their books on audio but haven't done it yet. So this is the purpose of the Featured Voice. So I'm so glad that that's something that you're looking into. But speaking of, now it's called Legacy of Shadows.
Yep,
Is that
Legacy of Shadow. Yep.
Legacy of Shadow? And we do have a clip, so we're going to go ahead and take a listen to it here. It's about a minute and some change, everybody. So let's take a listen to Ray and one of the biggest performances so far of his career, and he's excited about it, and we're excited about sharing it with you. So let's take a listen.
Even in the dim interior of the other car, there was no mistaking the crazed fat man, rolls of pale flesh piling up over his collar and pushing at his tie. The man was glistening with sweat, and his eyes seemed strange, as if they were all pupil. He was screaming something they couldn't hear over the howling of the engines and the roaring of the wind as Justin reined the Camry in even more. He was keeping one desperate eye on the road and the other on the Prius, his hand thrust at Marcus, fingers clawing. "Give me the damned thing!" Marcus shrank even further against his door, his hands falling to grasp the necklace. He was trying to marshal another argument when, past his friend, he saw the crazy fat man pull something off his own passenger seat and pointed at Justin's head. "Stop!" He screamed the word, punching Justin as hard as he could in the shoulder. Between the warning and the sudden blow, Justin slammed on the brakes in confusion. Both of them were thrown against their seatbelts, faces precariously close to the windshield, when a gleaming ball of blue lightning flashed over their hood and slapped into the trees by the side of the road. Marcus nearly wrenched his neck trying to stare at the impact point as they rushed past. By the sound and feel of the car, Justin had ground his fancy dress shoe back onto the gas pedal with terrible force. They were leaping ahead again. Behind them, a flickering orange light in the woods sent a cold, crawling sensation over Marcus's scalp and down his spine. Their erratic maneuvers had sent the other car swerving back into their wake, but now the man had his arm hanging out the driver's side window, and ball after ball of crackling lightning rushed past them. The energy disappeared into glowing tatters a couple car lengths ahead of them, and Marcus figured that this strange exotic weapon must have a very short range. One of the snapping, spitting orbs caught the rear quarter panel on Marcus's side, and the entire car rang like a rusty old bell.
See, it left me with a nice cliffy at the end, because now I want to know what happens after that big flash of light. So
Yeah, imagine that. What a coincidence.
I think you did that on purpose. You gave us that nice clip.
Who me? Who me? No.
Yeah, I think you did. But so tell me a little bit about the whole process of doing this type of book. It seems like you have to be, kind of high energy, and I can sense your enthusiasm in it, which is good. I guess because if leisurely, these are the type of books that you like to read or listen to. I gather just from the excitement in your voice, or you're just a great actor. I don't know, which one is it?
No, I definitely enjoy this type of book. And one thing that I really like doing is, especially in sort of action sequences, putting a lot of energy and intensity into it so that you communicate the feeling of the scene to the listener just through that. It's not all action sequence, of course, although there's plenty of other opportunities for it later in the book as things get pretty hairy for the characters towards the end. But yeah, it's pacing is pretty important, to be able to get the energy into those scenes that warrant it, but not, still, finding moments to sort of pull back and take a breath before diving back in once the sort of the action picks back up again. I mean, the other aspect of this sort of book, which this is obviously from the first chapter, the whole setup builds off of this, but later in the book we see lots of different alien species and characters within the different races and stuff that you have to find characters for.
Yes.
Which can be a challenge when there's a whole cast. And this book doesn't have like an immense cast of important characters that I need to be able to keep track of, but there's still a bunch. And one of the things I wanted to be able to do with it was there's all these, like I said, different alien races. I want there to be a connection between them. Like I want characters of the same alien race to have similarities so that you can hear when you're listening that, oh, that's this alien race. And you do have to be careful. You don't want to make a sort of a caricature that is going to annoy the listener. But at the same time, I want to get that distinction. One of the things I pride myself on in my narrations is making distinct characters so that the listener always immediately knows who they're listening to.
Right.
And that's obviously not a rule. Some narrators do it differently. They keep it a lot more straight and subtle, and they're just trying to make sure that you can differentiate within a scene. But I like really working to build those characters so that as many of them are distinct as possible. I mean, you can't do all the minors, but at least the major characters have that voice that you can recognize.
And that's important. It is important. And as a avid listener of audiobooks, I like that there's a distinction. And this is probably why not this book hasn't released yet, right? You just finished it.
Just finished it. It's probably hopefully no more than 2 weeks out at this point.
Okay, so I want to listen just because I want to hear you do some type of alien voice. Is it going to be like I don't even know what kind of alien movie has some weird voice, or is it more of, on Star Trek, they sounded human, but they had their own like language and stuff like that. So will I see like languages as far as species, or will I get Ray doing like some really odd alien-esque tone?
Yeah, well, I didn't make the aliens British, which is what it seems like some
fun, though. And
it seems like some
alien.
Well, that's what it seems like a lot of times some of these shows do is or at least maybe not as good ones, is like the aliens just sound like British, or they have some accent. I tried not to lean on that too heavily, and what I did do is one of the cool things is the author sent me a document that he had made when he was writing it, and it had pictures that he had found, just clip like images off the internet for what the characters he thought the different races looked like, right? And so what I had was this image of a physicality of a character's, an alien's face, so that for some of them described as their low and grumbly voice, so I could make my voice low and very deep and intense for those like spooky type aliens. But some of them like they talk about having their exposed teeth, and so I could use that physicality to sort of just give it a sound by trying to keep my teeth exposed as much as possible. and then I can carry that from character to character. If there's more than one character that is of that race, and I just keep the physicality and make some other subtle changes, and you can hopefully tell that it's that race, but it's a different individual of that race. And so I had fun doing that, and having the images from the author really helped, because then you put that picture in your head, and then try to give yourself a certain physicality for it, and then just speak and see what comes out, and then play with it a little so it doesn't sound like horribly annoying or anything like that. Hopefully it all sounds pleasant, but you get that different voices through the combination of the physicality and maybe one or two other subtle changes. And in the end, you don't have to do a whole lot to make a unique character when you have that component to go with it. So I don't have to, make sounds that are difficult for the listener to deal with. And then a lot of the main characters, I didn't go too far with. They're mostly pretty straightforward, because a main character, you want to be able to be comfortable. Right. I get a much wider range of emotions to be able to be conveyed when I can stay closer to neutral, so to speak. But still, it was a neat way. I really enjoyed using that aspect of the performance to sort of develop those characters and deal with the roster of sort of the cantina scene from Star Wars, where it's just all these radically different images that you're seeing, and I want to be able to have the listener see that in their head while I'm narrating it.
I think this is probably the first time that I've ever asked this question, is that you guys actually get to build kind of outside of giving the characters a voice. Just for instance, like you said, you got a picture and you were the one who were able to determine what this character would sound like. So it's not so much of, the author sending you a voice clip saying,
Hmm.
they sound like this, and you trying to emulate that, but more so you taking what they give you, and you're the creator. Now you're kind of the creator of this character's voice. How fun is that you get an opportunity to do that?
Yeah, it is. It is a lot of fun. It's a big responsibility. I mean, we do get obviously clues from the script where the author talks about, raspy voice or high voice or soft voice, different clues that we can get for what the author was trying to go for that character. But in
Mm-hmm.
the end, we have to be able to internalize that character so that we can, really convincingly, portray them. We have to play all the characters in the story, which is
Mm-hmm.
a ton of fun. And being able to create and think about each character is a big process of the book, and honestly is one of the ways that you really connect with the book. You get to connect with every character, sort of try to get a feeling for them and what they want, and then keep that internalized while you're speaking their lines. And it's definitely one of the more fun parts of the job is when you get into a good groove and you develop some really great characters and you have them interacting and you get to bring them all out. It's definitely, like I said, a lot of responsibility because you want
Yeah.
to honor the text and honor the character, and do it right. When you get it, it's a really great feeling.
Yeah, and the fact that you have six children, and I don't know what ages they range from, but I'm sure that kind of plays into, some aspects of you being able to tap into your characters. Do you ever try any of those out on them and kind of get, their approval, or if they ever say, Dad, no, that sucks, or, Dad, no, go with this one?
No, I don't necessarily run them by them. My kids, we managed to evenly space them pretty well. Right now they're 10, 8, 6, 4, 2, and about 3 months. So I don't run them by them too much, but every now and then, like I'll do like different voices with them, and sometimes they're like, "No, Daddy, stop, stop talking like that," or sometimes they'll ask me to keep talking, like do that voice again, or like my maniacal laugh they enjoy, although sometimes they're scared and and they're younger, and then when they're older, like do the laugh, and it's like dinner time. It's like, can we just eat? I just really
So it's more like a 50-50 for you. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. You got to feel the moment. Today
yeah.
might not be a voice day. I might just need to be myself. And
Especially when I'm working on like an accent for like a theater production, like I
mhm.
was doing a few years ago. I was playing a Scottish character, and so I would do the Scottish voice at home, and for a while they're just like, no, don't talk like that, Daddy. I'm like, I'm trying to work on my lines. I have to talk like this, and
Well, we
but they
want to
didn't.
hear it. We want to hear the Scottish accent.
You want to hear my Scottish? Probably
Uh,
more of an impression than a real accent.
you
Not sure
know,
if it will work all that well for a full production.
you totally could be Scrooge McDuck.
Yeah. The real fun thing for the role, the play that I was in was called Unnecessary Farce. And you might not have picked this up from the title, but it was a farce. But the whole thing with my character was that when he got angry, the accent got thicker, and there were chunks of the script that were written phonetically
Oh
and, and
gosh.
and not meant to be like actually understood by the audience. And so it was so much fun. I had such a great time with that
That
show.
sounds amazing. And I love it's so funny that you said you started about 9 years ago and you joined the community theater, and that was your first time on stage, and you're still at it. And so, if you had to do a comparison between being on stage in front of tons of people and doing
Mm.
audiobook narration, which one do you feel like you gravitate more, or you were more comfortable with?
Wow. I like them both. I really love them both. You get a very different feel between the two, because one is so social and outward, like you're acting with another person and you're taking what they give you, and and you have the script that you're working on for months, and you can sort of examine each line. And then when you're performing, the audience is right there, and you hear their reactions, and you take that and it becomes a part of the performance. And then with audiobooks, it's all like internal. I'm alone in my booth, and I am playing off of myself a lot of the time. You don't have months to work through your script. You get, you do a prep, at least one read through, and you do your work ahead of time. But then you got to read it. You don't get to craft every line like you do when you're on a stage play. I mean, it's just like it feels almost like the opposite ends of the spectrum. But in the end, it's still performance, which is what I think really really works for me, because I get to go in and pretend to be this other character or pretends to be in this other place. I don't know. I'd have a hard time picking between the two. I guess if you forced me to, I'd probably pick audiobooks because that's an actual revenue stream.
Win. Score.
And the volunteer theater is all volunteer. But I don't know. I'd hate to give that up too, because it's I don't know if you've ever done any theater or not, but there's the world that gets created around the production. I mean, not even just on stage, but in the production. It's its own like little universe that is created when the production starts and is destroyed and gone forever when it's gone.
Yeah.
I haven't really experienced in my life anything else like it. I'm sure there's other things that are very similar, but it's this tangible like feeling that, and then once it's gone, it's just gone. And so it's, to give that up would be hard at this point. I really love it.
Yeah, it seems like it gives you a good balance because, like you mentioned, as a narrator, you're kind of alone in a booth, and it's just you, and the voices in your head, and it's just you. And then you get to go and do the theater, so it's kind of a good balance, I guess. And even though you're not, doing the plays every month, at least 2 times a year, you get to go in and feed off of other people. So I don't see you giving up either one. It's just part of, the whole acting spectrum. But I always like to see, which one people think is easier. I personally don't think either one of them is easy. Yeah. And especially...
No, it's just, they're just different. The challenges are different. They each have their own craft that you need to work at to do well. It's not easy or hard. It's to put out a quality performance either for audiobook or for a stage play, is its own thing that requires that attention and that focus and that dedication.
So when you're not working, when you're not performing audiobooks, what are some things that you like to listen to or like to read or do for fun that just kind of helps you have that work-life balance and centers and refocuses yourself? Yourself. That doesn't sound right. Refocus. I have to say refocus yourself.
Yeah. Well, as far as stuff I like to listen to, I'm still a fantasy and science fiction fan. Right now I'm listening to a John Scalzi book, The Last Colony, which is the 3rd one in the Old Man's War series, which is a cool science fiction story. See, still love science fiction, even through narrating it. And then I just got done reading a book written by a friend of mine, actually, who I have acted with at the theater, called The Secret School, or The School Secret. And it's Sidekick Academy. The author's name is Dan Wenzel. And it's a young adult book about a kid who, in a world where there are superheroes, and gets an opportunity to enroll at a school that is for. You can figure it out pretty early, although part of the book is spent figuring out the school secret, right? Where it's basically training younger kids who have particular abilities or features, gifts, they say, to be like superheroes or sort of exist in that world. It was really a really great fun read, and I know he's working on the sequel, so I'm looking forward to that. As far as other stuff that I do as a hobby, besides spending my days with my kids, which it takes up a lot of time and effort, even though I don't have it nearly as hard as other people who are on their own at home. I can sit in my booth now and record this because of my awesome wife, who is making sure the kids aren't, eating the entire bag of dessert candy downstairs right now.
Oh, poor kids.
Yeah, I know, right? But I'm actually into to modern hobby board games quite a bit. I don't know if you know about that world at all. I mean, there's all the classics that we grew up with, like Monopoly and Clue and all those. But
Mhm.
the last 20 years or so, there's been a big movement towards more modern designs of really fun board games for pretty much everybody. I own probably over 60 myself, and that's not that many compared to some of the people out there. There's people that own hundreds. There's thousands that are made every year of every genre and every type of mechanism that you could want. Pretty much something for nearly everybody these days. And so that's my main focus for my hobby side of things when I'm not trying to take care of the kids or or working on recording.
So, for instance, like Monopoly,
Hmm.
right? So, of course, I know there's a Big Bang Theory Monopoly, there's
Yeah.
Game of Thrones Monopoly,
Hmm.
of course, Star Wars Monopoly. So, is
Right.
that what you mean by as far as, having Monopoly, but pretty much a gazillion versions of it based on some.
No, no, no. It's all kind of the same game, with its own. It's people enjoy it as a part of our culture, and that's fine. But really, there's a lot of games these days that are being developed now that are a lot more friendlier. Although,
Monopoly is friendly.
well,
No?
it. Well, let's
No?
say, there's, of course, it does have a reputation for people getting upset, although it is relatively tame, I will say, compared to some of the other games out there where you could really end up disliking the other people playing. One game I really enjoy that's actually, when you talk about modern designs, is not a modern design. It was made back in the 1950s, called Diplomacy, which is the true king of friendship destroying games. Because the whole game is about, you have to make alliances with the other players, but only one player can win. So at some point, to win, have to betray the people who you've been working with.
Oh, so but you
Um,
like that better than Monopoly?
yes, I do like that better than
Oh my
Monopoly.
gosh. Okay, I see you. I see how you
It
are,
does.
Ray.
Yeah. The Diplomacy is a very long game, and not many. Some people really don't like it because they appreciate keeping friends. But no, there's some of the more recent modern board games that some people might have heard of are ones like Ticket to Ride is a game about making train connections across the country, and you get points for completing linking cities to cities with your trains. A game called Pandemic is where all the players work together. It's a cooperative game, and you are working together to fight these 4 diseases that are spreading around the world, and you're trying to cure them all before they get out of control and pretty much make destroy the world by infecting everybody. There's other games. Settlers of Catan was one of the first ones. It's just called Catan now, where you have this map of these different areas on it that you make up with little tiles, and then everybody's just putting down little settlements and connecting roads to them, and you roll a die to get resources that you use to build more roads and settlements and upgrade to cities. So you're not, trying to drive everybody into the ground into bankruptcy like you do with Monopoly. Which, if that's your thing, that's fine. If you want to, really grind your opponents into dust, that's no problem there. But, these other games that are, people all trying to achieve a goal, that not necessarily just stomp on everybody else in the process. Although there are plenty of games where if you want to stomp on other people, you can certainly do that too. But there's a whole world of board games that a lot of people aren't really aware of because it wasn't the ones we grew up with. And,
Right.
you don't see them. You don't see too many of them on your Walmart shelves. I know Target is starting to carry some of them. Barnes and Noble has a nice section of great board games. And, it's the thing I really like about it is it's an opportunity to sit down in front of somebody and, really interact with them rather than, hanging out and just watching TV or everybody hanging around and staring at their phone or whatever.
Yeah.
To get people together and physically talk and look at each other. And I love doing it with my kids too. My kids are getting to the point where they can, speaking of train games, they're able to play with me. So it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it.
Well, it definitely sounds like it, and it sounds like the train decided to come and join us too.
Yep.
So that's always fun.
Sure.
I
The
mean,
more the merrier.
it was probably because you started talking about connecting cities and trains, and
That's
so
right. Yeah.
the train just decided that it was going to come in and toot its horn.
Sure.
But I like games too, and it makes me think about the fact that you seem to like things that deal with connecting people together, like you said,
Mhm.
and that's how we should be in society. Is not so much trying to destroy somebody else, but what can we do to help build each other up? And
Yeah.
but still, it's Monopoly, though. I'm just
Yeah.
saying.
No, it's a classic. It's a classic. Just when you play, it'll go a lot quicker if you play by the rules without the extra house rules that everybody adds in, like no money on free parking. I know everybody loves to get that money, but that just makes the game go on forever.
Right.
And stuff like that.
Yeah, well, you know what? I'm excited that we had an opportunity to chat with you today, and we will be making sure that we add more fun facts that you provided us during week 8 of the Featured Voice. But Ray, tell everybody how they can connect with you on social media.
All right. Well, my Twitter handle is Ray Greenley VO at Ray Greenley VO. On Facebook, I have my Facebook group or account is Ray Greenley Voiceover, and my website's the same, www.raygreenleyvoiceover.com. That I don't update as much as I should. I'll get to that, I promise. I'm probably most active on Twitter, and then Facebook follows that up. I also do have a SoundCloud account that I've posted clips up to on there. If you want to hear more of some of my stuff, or of course, just go onto Audible and search for my name, Ray Greenley, Greenley, and you'll see the books that I've done. And if some of them are look interesting, I hope you'll check them out.
Yes, everybody, be sure that you go and professionally stalk Ray everywhere, and also visit his SoundCloud. And if you're an author looking to connect with a narrator who's professional and is very outgoing and enjoys what he does, he's got 6 kids, so of course he wants to do YA. Then follow up with Ray, give him a call, check out his demo. He is also on ACX, so be sure that if you are looking to produce your audiobook yourself, you can go by and listen to his demos and contact him directly. So again, thank you so much, Ray, for being on the Featured Voice. This is the beginning of a beautiful relationship.
Thank you very much, Jacques. I really enjoyed my time, and I appreciate you having me on.
You're so welcome. All right, everyone. Until next time, enjoy week 8 of the Featured Voice and have a great day. Bye.